Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Monday, August the 27th, 2018. And I am here with the usual crew, my gal pals, my posse, Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. And BZ had a topic right off the bat, and I agreed wholeheartedly. We're going to talk about mastery. Actually, that's really what we've been doing all along, I feel. I didn't think, I thought, oh, there's got to be steps and all that. No, we're already masters when we come here, and we're just mastering this particular level, right? Sort of.
Well, that's
Or,
a short way to put it, yeah. Okay, we're done. Bye, have a good night.
That was great.
I know, right? That was easy. There goes BZ. Tearing off. There was a possibility of that. Well, I don't know. I guess because I've heard that said a lot from others too about, none of us would actually be here if we weren't already masters to some degree.
I would take off the caveat you threw at the end and say absolutely correct.
To some degree. I see. Okay.
That's small. You're added a small.
I see. Well, that's true. I've been feeling very boxed in from all kinds of levels. So I'm not surprised that I'm still trying to box myself even on some levels. So,
yeah, I was trying to, when I was sitting there doing the 9.5 pound, I was, getting mastery at what I was doing, right? So there's a phrase that I couldn't quite pull in, something like, and it's an oxymoronic type phrase. If you see in the 3D, fourth dimensional mindset, you'll go, huh? It's something like, if you realize that I'm not going to bring, because I'll paraphrase like 5,000 miles off the mark. If you realize that you're a human being with an ego mind and not at all, something like not at all spiritual or something like that, you've reached the level of mastery. Because, and the first time I heard that, well, the correct phrase, but something like that, I'll have to find it at some point. But the first time I heard that, I thought, what? And actually very quickly came in, because once you realize that the being that you think you are is those things, you've kind of played all the way out to the end of the rope. And because you can see it, you can see the separation all the way through, where you're actually seeing your separateness playing out. And you are in mastery of that level of that. So yeah, we're all, I'm sorry, I'll come up with the correct thing and it'll make sense. But we're all masters. To get a slot on this go around on this planet at this moment, yes. Now, does that mean that we've reached the pinnacle of our mastership, ascended masterness? Nope. Because, well, first of all, we're infinite, so that ship sailed or continuously, infinitely.
Well, the tendency to think in terms of this physical life or this, this particular incarnation or whatever, as being it, for a lot of folks, are on some levels, and it's not that it's right or wrong. It's just a noticing that I've had. I was feeling earlier today the growth of that is just that's what life is that growth, that expansion. Period. It has very little to do on one level. I get it on those smaller levels, of consciousness, that it's true that it's this, that, or the other. But on for me recently, when looking at it, it's always growth. Like you were saying, it's infinite, and we will always be expanding. It's not like there's some rung that we're trying to attain. I know that it used to feel like that to me before, when I was first starting to seek in the new age kind of areas, right? Because this is all relative. I've not been in this for years, like, you guys have. And when I first started looking for that, when you talk about ascension and going to, there's some level of mastery that one's seeking to attain, and that's where I think the confusion sometimes regarding hierarchy and that sort of thing comes in. But I have this feeling that is just what life is. It's always expansion. It's always growth, and it's in everything and everywhere, and we see it everywhere. So it just feels like it's innate all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I kind of went off there. I don't know where I went.
Well, it's a big topic, really, because it's like the moment that you reach a realization, or even say a goal, a milestone, where you think, oh, I've arrived, right, is when you realize, oh, wow, suddenly a whole new potentiality will manifest, a whole new next thing to really want. It's just, that constant expansion is just never ending.
Well, you're always arriving. You're always mastering that moment. You're always creating a new moment. And you're always building the entirety of all deliciousness in that moment simultaneously, because your multidimensionality is showing. So I'm not sure why this popped in, but it popped in 3 times. So I'm apparently it somehow sort of goes with this. There was a comment. I've heard this said a lot, but there was a comment the other day on the IUV, basically that. Okay, well, I may be paraphrasing my imagination of it, but that we've got to get our act together and get rid of these criminal bastards, or Jesus will never come. The second coming of Jesus will come. And something to that effect. So that the gist was that, Jesus and the second coming.
Right.
So the reason that this came around is just kind of a programming note. Because it has to do with mastery. So that which was and is, and since it's infinite, that is the energy frequency of Jesus is in all of us. And that's when you hear people talk about ascension and embodiment, about Christed consciousness, Christ consciousness, crystal energy and light and all that. It's around the Christos and all of that. It's an energy frequency, and it's what we're all attaining. So just like you've heard people talk about the ascended masters will walk the earth, and the second coming. Hello? Have you noticed yourself walking around the earth lately today? Okay, well, they're here. And so to some, I guess there's levels of blasphemy. So I just hit the top level of the blasphemy. But, go tune in and ask Jesus himself. And that's what he was bringing forth in this whole frequency. Again, there's some who believe that he actually walked the earth, or there was many, or that, and that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
But that's the energy. So again, think if you're going to run this whole false construct, and this is kind of a side note, although it has to do with mastery, so I guess we're on topic. If you're going to run this false construct and you want to keep people in line, so you have someone walk, among you that, you portray as this person that's, pure and all this kind of stuff, and the Son of God, and, the whole parable that came with that. And, you have to have, he died for your sins. Okay. And there's this, bloody person on a cross all over the place. And that's somehow amazingly heartfelt. I never got that. And I went to church 6 days a week, but okay. So, but you do that because then you always are sinning and you're always repenting. And again, depending on the particular dialect and church and denomination and all those other things of the particular religion, you have all of those things. There's a commonalities there. There's always somebody who's done something and you're always sinning and you're never good enough and you gotta, you're dirty and gotta get washed and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at the way you put that. You're dirty, you have to be washed.
It's been a long day. I'm hopped up on the hops I was picking.
I see, okay. Well, because there's it was so funny for you for that. I apologize. Please continue.
Oh, no.
The point is that's a beautiful meme to put out there because it keeps people always small. It keeps people always not good enough. It keeps people trying. And where do they go? They sure as hell don't go inside for that. They sure as hell don't connect to their Christ consciousness, to the Christos within them, to the energies and the changing and all of the rhythm in life, which points the direction of Christ in every moment and every second. And if you were standing right next to me, he'd say, yeah, bravo, right? So when you do that, you're always going to, and then, as if that wasn't good enough, then you put him on the cross and you nail him up, and then he, is resurrected and is gone. So it's this whole parable thing. It's this whole thing that's, it's what, as you break it, and yes, there is some reverence and magnificence to it, and there's miracles and all that, but they're all outside of every being. Nobody can ever attain that. And
well, I have to share with you, BZ, that so because this just came in, the frequency that is felt within, when folks are, because I've been there. Okay, I've been to churches. I feel what goes on in there. Okay, and sometimes that frequency, that Christed frequency that you were talking about, is there, and that's why it gets misinterpreted to me. That's just my take on it. And for me, it gets misinterpreted. Because guess where that feeling, that frequency is coming from? Inside of all those beings, inside that building, not from something outside, not from the guy standing up there giving the speech about it. And so, I don't know, I just felt, for some reason, that felt important to throw in there. But that was something that I didn't see or feel or comprehend for myself back then when I was, still visiting churches on occasion in my youth. But in revisiting that in this moment, that's what came in for me, that's the frequency that can be felt in there. And it's because it's coming from the inside.
Yes. And I just wanted to check the languaging on a banner that someone had made for the Pope's visit in Ireland. And I understand now why I was brought around a couple times for me to mention this, because it's all part of the mastery, and things are already unfolding, and I guess one could miss a lot of them. But you're not going to be able to have any trouble missing it. You can choose how, if any, you want to look into anything.
Wait a minute. You kind of went a little bit robo there for what you just said. So if you would, well, I don't know if it was, I don't think it was your microphone this time so much as it was just robo a little bit. So
what'd you miss?
If you'll just repeat what you said after well, what you said after you said you had to check the thing on the Pope.
Okay.
So
I realized why
whatever you were talking about.
Can you hear me now? I realized why I was nudged a couple times to bring up the whole frequency of Jesus and Jesus, because there's a good point of mastery that will need to be embodied right this moment. Because right now it's very easy to look around, and you don't have to look very far to see evidence of the truth really coming out of these purported holy places, and the holy of the holy, holy, holy in the Holy See. Starting with that all the way down, but it's all of them, because the same master, right, has all of the channels and lanes of the marketing for the religion. And wait a moment, and you won't have to look at all, because it will be everywhere, and it will be so broad and so wide and so deep and so amazing, is an apt way to describe it. Very hard if you're not at all familiar with it, for what's being revealed. So really now, and I said, well, I'm not sure why this goes, but it does, because where would be a better time to realize that light, that Christos energy, is not only in you, but you can bring it to full embodiment right now. This is what's going on. This is what it's all about. You've got Pope Francis is in Ireland. Actually, he left last night. Pope head of the biggest pedophile ring
in the history of mankind, I think it's
history of mankind. Well, yeah, I mean that's accurate, except it's the same one that's been before the known history.
Yes.
So anyways, that's not, and that's what's coming forward. That's the least, actually, of which is coming forward. So for some, they may or may not understand. I think for many, the fact that Jesus, or whatever their particular religious, highly held religious being, that they are the embodiment of that they don't die, that they don't stop it, that they don't have just a little bit of reincarnation and all that kind of stuff and come back to toil and see if they can, wash their sins away this time. That's going to be a very big one. That's what I said. That's the headline.
Yes. Yes, it is. And I think that's why, well, that's one of the biggest reasons. Okay, so just for me, all of a sudden, compassion and the Christ consciousness feels one and the same.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because those words, I was having a conversation today, and I still feel very, 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 very strongly about the fact that the definitions of words are as varied as the people who have experienced them. And that is the way it is. We can all agree on a definition, but the connotation and the feeling that goes along with that particular will always be colored by the experiences and the perspectives and the perceptions of the one uttering those words, and the one that's receiving those words will receive them in their own perspective and experiential perception.
And that's by design, by the false construct, so that they're, whatever commonality purported is one that's handed to you, and it's handed to you with all of those connotations and feelings and whatever, and when you kind of step outside of it and realize for yourself, well, okay, wait a minute, that's something different, So, and as you get more expansive in your perspective, in your consciousness, you realize that the English language, any language on this planet, pick one, all of them, is woefully inaccurate. And so you'll hear an awful lot of people who are trying to use woefully inaccurate language and lingo to describe something that, is immeasurable. We'll use lots of different woefully inaccurate words to kind of, paint this patchwork picture that you might get just a glimpse of the, not full solidity of what it is they're trying to, because it's the best that we've got. And also by doing that, you can, if one way you describe it hits someone with a certain kind of connotation and all that, then you come around, and they can get enough of them in there that they can get bits and pieces of what it is that you're trying to describe.
For some reason, this is coming in right now in regards to this conversation and mastery, because we're speaking about mastery, and where words and feeling are all concerned. So this is a big part of mastery as well. And one of the reasons why feeling into the energetic that presents when anyone speaks, actually, being able to feel past the words and into the energetic behind the words. And I know, I know because I have uttered these words, I don't get what you're saying. For a long time, I uttered those words. And it really was not until, Lisa was such a big help in regards to subtlety being one thing, but also, and you busy with noticing, because now I feel as though with those two things in particular, and the knowledge that all of me, my body, my field, my hearing, my eyes, everything about me is able through focus and attention to tune in past those words. Now I comprehend but it does take focus and attention, meaning in order to master, I'm sorry, this sounds a bit convoluted because it's coming in a particular way. For me, first realizing that everything that I get comes through my own perception filters, and it won't mean the same thing or feel the same for anyone else. So I can't expect anyone else, first of all, to actually comprehend it completely, 100%. Maybe a little bit, maybe they'll get the feeling of what I'm feeling, which would be awesome because that's really the best part of it. But having it come in as it's being spoken, like by either one of you, and be able to feel past the words. But if I'm looking for an answer or a response to something and I'm not really, or I'm thinking about the bill I got to pay or the thing down the street or whatever, any bit of that distraction could in my case, throw off my perception or my reception, actually, of fully feeling into what's being offered.
You just gave a
Because
really...
that's for... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just saying you just gave or giving a really beautiful example of a large... I'm even not sure how to differentiate it, but a large plank, for lack of a large plank of mastery. So as for all of the beings on this planet who are going through physical body ascension, who are going through Stargate ascension and moving on through more and more things with all of the energies that have come in, more again with the big, we had the trinity of those eclipses, and then we had the full moon yesterday. So many beings are doing so much expansion and just really doing such an amazing job that we are bulleting ahead, flying ahead, speeding ahead, quantum jumping ahead, well, it's actually, quantum jumping squared times something ahead in what we are integrating, what we are holding, what we are anchoring into the planet, and then being able to avail ourselves of so that we can gain that mastery. And that is levels of consciousness, energetics of consciousness, the actual frequencies that everybody's swimming around in right now and playing with, is already at the 12th dimension and above. So remember, there was a conversation we had a long time ago, and I said something, I was mentioning something about plasma energy, and you said, Sheila, I think it was something like, I thought it was crystalline energy, and I said, yeah, but that's just fifth dimension. We don't want to limit ourselves. And you said, well, no, I didn't know we could, but okay. So yeah, that's what it's going. So the mastery in that, to actually lock all of that in this physical body ascension that's going on, and there is no level like, okay, 5D and done, because that's not the truth of who you are, and you would never want that. Once you're kind of, all of you is there and comprehending it. But the level of mastery of that, where it's fully embodied, where your soul is fully connected and fully, I want to say phased in. I'm not sure if that's the correct way, but it gives a little bit of a picture. Phased into all of you, so that it's one full expanded being. To lock that fully in and have all of those. To have all of those of the 12th dimension, of course, that's not an ending either, but just for right this moment, is to have the ability of what you were just speaking about, Sheila, that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, that there are no distractions. Yes, you can do different things at the same time and be fully focused and attention on the different things. One is not a distraction of something else, because how you interact with, how you merge with, how you play with, how you dance with, and how you kind of create and orchestrate all of that out of you, from within you, and in connection with all others around you, is always of that pure, open-hearted expansiveness. So that's why when I was sitting down, I was at work and I was sitting down outside and I was doing this thing that was a task that was taking me quite a while. And so I thought, okay, well, what would you like me, to suggest something to play with tonight? And as I was, doing this thing, and mastery came through, and I laughed because exactly what I just described came through in my head, and I said, right, I'm on it, no problem. I'm open. I'm expansive. I got this. Mastery it is. Okie dokie.
On every level. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to be quite a ride of late for all, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find myself sitting in the center a lot recently. This is a new thing for me. I mean, it really is sitting in that zero. I never really quite could comprehend what 0 point was before, but I really, I'm feeling it a little bit more. And I wanted to share with you, BZ, when you were saying earlier about how the soul phases in. I heard the word fusion in my head.
Could be.
So,
yeah. That would go with all the plasma energy and the plasmic fusion. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's hard to kind of pick the right words because it's your soul has always been in you, or you wouldn't, be here because your body would have unanimated and it just would have disintegrated.
Yeah, but I go back to I'm reminded of a conversation that I had with friends who really don't follow any of these videos, longtime friends. It was actually my friend's daughter whom I've known since she's like 4. And we were having coffee and she said something in regards to, well, you just look like you're more in there, and so not comprehending or following what we're talking about here, having said that to me after, knowing me as long as she has, to me, that's like a 3D validation from someone who doesn't follow any of this, who is not at all spiritual, doesn't necessarily ascribe to any of this, and said to me, well, I don't know, you just look like you're more in there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful and apt description.
Right.
Yes, because that's when Lisa and I were when we were sharing, last week that we had gone grocery shopping, and some of the reactions that we were having with folks, or interactions, and then little noticings that we were having, it's like there is, as one is doing, I guess, the internal work of pulling all of oneself, imploding this in, I guess, it just kind of shows in some way. It's that anchoring of that light is what I feel for myself. When I've been looking at myself in the mirror lately, I see, just it seems like a little difference in the mirror when I look at myself. So I don't know. I guess it shows on the outside in some way. Say what?
You do know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It must show on the outside in some fashion. And it just does it more and more, I guess, the more that comes in and is anchored in.
Yeah, and you'll see it'll show in different ways, because depending on the frequency and the level of mastery that other being has allowed themselves to create, you'll see some people that will have a hard time, especially they may look at you like if you're not looking at them, but if you look at them, so you're looking directly at them and you're being completely present, they can only hold your gaze for a very brief moment.
Oh, is that what I didn't?
Or they can't at all.
Or they can't at all. And one of the reasons, that doesn't mean that they're a bad or evil person and, the sign of the hex and yada yada. It just simply means that their being let's say their small being, whatever their small being's name is, although maybe, playing up the game of being sound asleep and not paying any attention and not knowing anything, not realizing, actually knows and can see it and has a hard time looking at it, because that would really put the kibosh on their pillow over their head routine. Because they can see it in you. It's a transmission comes in, and they don't want the codes. They don't want that. They're happy for whatever reason.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I have currently. That is my current superpower, actually. I feel like, there's that happens a lot where, folks just don't prefer to be around me. And that's okay. Whatever. No judgment. I'm cool with that. I feel like that can be part of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks out there that have that happen to them. They have loved ones or friends or whatever. Yes. Yep. Lisa too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's painful for folks.
Yeah.
Especially when you become a constant reminder. It's like a pebble in the shoe.
Well, yes. And one of the things that you can do, I'm not sure if this is the right metaphor, but you can, like an elf buffing their shoe when no one's looking. So there are little ways that you don't have to be in front of them, directly in front of them. You don't even have to speak to them on the phone but when you feel moved, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you tune into this and just play with it for a little bit. But you may feel moved to send them an email or send them a picture by email or printed out. Or something, and what it is they're little touchstones that has the frequency of you and that expansiveness in it, but there's something that's enchanting and engaging and a nice, kind of like you're at the farmer's market and you're going by and you're sampling some of the value-added food products that people have made, the mustard or whatever, the jam, something like that. And when you do that, it's not that you sent it, it's that the energy of it. And because there is that buffer, that they would think, you're actually, to use a garden metaphor, you're doing a lot of nice soil prep and, got a nice basket of seeds that are growing. And it's a really... and there'll be moments here and there that occasionally you might catch wind of it, because you probably never realize that that those are landing in any way. They'll mention, or they might mention, say, one person you sent to may mention to somebody else that like 3 other people removed comes around. Oh yeah, I saw that picture you sent, blah blah blah. It was really cool. I was looking at it, and so they don't understand it, but that's, for some, that's a comforting, comfortable way for them to do it, and that's the best that they can do.
Right.
And that's perfect, because those are like they're what they will be. It could be the tangible, say if it's a picture or something, or the energy frequency of the energy envelope that it created for them. Because even if the picture disappears, let's say it's an actual picture, even if that disappears,
right,
it's still there. So in moments now, which are happening all over the place and we're going to speed up, because we're moving very slowly right now. They're going to speed up. That will be kind of like...
I'm sorry, I got a little terrified there for a second.
Put your seatbelts on, honey. Here we go.
I feel like that little kid in the laundry basket that the parents done the roller coaster thing for him. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, but your mastery is upgrading your laundry basket, to super duper souped up all sorts of things, right? I mean, it kind of, as the moments speed up, that you can you can go like this when you're feeling like this, and then, okay, well, let's paint it blue, and I got a special coating of, I don't know, gork snuff, and hey, look at that. It's a pretty tricked out laundry basket I got now, right? I mean, you do it on
the laundry basket goes supernova.
That's right. You do it on the fly. But the energy frequency of we're using the picture as a metaphor. Those are compassion blankets.
Ah.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? They can, when they're just kind of casting about, they'll come across it, or they'll, if you send an email, they'll scan and they'll come back to that email and it'll highlight for them, even if they wouldn't describe that, but it does. And they open it. And so they're compassion blankets, where it's just like the feeling is, if you've touched something, sometimes you can feel a blanket handmade or something that's really soft. The wool or something is super, super soft. And you just like petting it. So it's that kind of a thing from an energetic standpoint, a frequency standpoint, that's going to be really helpful. And you can do it for people that you can do it for complete strangers, you can do it in all sorts of ways. And once you kind of hold that, just play with it, and it will come to you, it'll speak to you, it'll come up all of a sudden, you'll be doing something, and the nudge and the thought and the feeling and the move to of this particular person and this particular thing will come. And that's, again, part of the mastery, where you act on that. You say, okay, I got it, great. And it's a really fun joyfulness to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've done some things like that. Just follow a nudge and I'm trusting that more and more. And it's been some really great results for me personally, just in my own personal interactions with others. When you were talking about that, I was thinking to myself, okay, yeah, because that's some, oh, am I not speaking? You can't hear me? Really?
Well, we can hear you a little, but everybody's...
Okay. Usually I'm not the one that's having that issue. Usually it's you. How's that? Is it any better?
That's better.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I wouldn't have put it in the way that you put it. But that's something that I have been trusting myself more and more to do in interactions with, folks that have, avoided me or, whatever, or, not kind of, the frequential situation hasn't worked out to be in each other's field, let's say. That's a kind way of instead of I'm being avoided or whatever. Like I said, that sounds wrong, but I get it. I understand why it's happening and that sort of thing. But, I didn't view that as a compassion blanket or, anything like that. But yeah, there's like the periodic reaching out in different little ways, just that, I'm here, love ya, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't viewed it like that. So thank you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It could be, and it doesn't have to, if you have plants or grow stuff, you can take cuttings or something. It's just little stuff like that where you're having a conversation with the plant and it's nudged and it would like to have, one of its cuttings or something go to so-and-so, or that might be fun. You might find a plant if you like to play with that, and it gives you something to be in the whole expansion of the plant and making new plants from one plant. And then when the cutting roots and grows up a little, you can just go to different places and gift them, because it's the energy of that. And the false construct is so loopy-loop about any kind of real connection anymore, that if you have some kind of intermediary thing, that's living, that's interesting, or a lot of times if you have a dog or something, that's a good way, because there's that compassion blanket right there. I mean, Keegan, does a lot of work all the time. He'll go to different places, and he's very good, and he knows how to read the energy, and he'll sit quietly, and people will come to him, and I mean, if I wanted to go to, say, the Home Depot and just get, I don't know, something simple, right? I've got to plan at least 2.5, 3 hours for my Home Depot run, because that's how long it takes.
Okay, now there's a couple of people that want to know why, BZ.
Why? Because the moment we come in the door, I put him in one of the shopping carts so that he's at a higher level. So, because there's a lot of older people there who can't bend over, and they're drawn to want to connect and pet and meet the dog. So we walk in, and there's the greeters at the Home Depot. Well, they say, well, hang on, we got to get you something. So they'll go over and they'll get a big piece of cardboard. And so I lift him up, and they put a nice piece of cardboard down because they don't want him to be, having his feet down the hole. So, okay. And well, can I give him a biscuit? Okay, fine. But he doesn't really, since I make all of his own food, he's not really keen on those. So I just say, I'll save it to him for later, put it in my pocket. So they're happy. And then we can't even get out of that first part, if you ever remember being in a Home Depot where it's wide, and then you can go right or left of the before someone is making a beeline, cutting across several lanes of traffic, to say this or that, and so I just kind of navigate a few inches in the next person, and then someone says, oh, can I better go in that direction, and whatever I may want is down on that aisle way over there, but it's going to take me a while to get there, and then a while back. And conversations of, I had a dog and I lost it, or I'm thinking about getting one, or, I mean, the amazing stories that people feel comfortable, because it's a compassion blanket, and Keegan is just sitting there emitting just absolutely wave after wave after wave after wave of love, of joy, and compassion. You can see whether I can see because of the way that I can connect with people and read energy and stuff, but that's that I do, and everybody can do it, but just the way that I do it. But you can be blind to all of that and just watch physically how they seem to get younger, and they seem to stand up straighter, and they seem to be more relaxed, and they seem to lose a whole lot of lines and stuff, because this is genuine connection. And yes, they're having a connection with me as well, or they'll stop and tell part of the story to me as well as just Keegan. But again, that's a mastery in that it's mastery on all sides. So if there's just one other person who's connecting with Keegan and myself, there's 3 beings who are in mastery at that moment. And the really cool thing is that it's like, it's a shopping cart, but it's like this magical sleigh of sparkling, expansive energy that's going through the store. And as each being comes up, and so there's at least 3 of us. Sometimes there'll be groups come over, but now, since their soul is there and it's coming more fully in that moment, it's coming more fully in. There is an imploding going on, and so now there's beautiful transmissions of all. I mean, you could look and watch all of the colors and all of the effervescence just kind of now it's floating through as if you were looking at some, I don't know, I hate to say it, but a Disney movie or something like that, where all those kind of special effects are going on, and that's what's happening. I mean, I've had people wait in line. Oh, can I do it? They're kind of looking at something near them, and a little paint chip or something, and the person walks off, and they scoot over. Oh, can I do it?
That's awesome, though. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a dog or a Keegan or a kitten or something, but there are lots of ways that you can do it. He's just great because he so exudes the love, and it's a natural wanting to have a connection. It's safe, in the false construct. It's safe.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, it's a huge subject, and I know we could talk about it, and I want us to talk about it more, not have this be the only one, because there's lots to it. Especially you touched on something very, it was like a ding moment in my head in regards to the how, you know, they said that the ascended masters would walk the earth. Yeah. Oh, wow. That was too delicious right there. Because I also heard we are the ones we've been waiting for, all at the same
time. Oh, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, all at the same time.
Yeah, and with that, you hear some people say, well, that's kind of thinking big of yourself.
You're damn skippy. Let me just set you straight right now. You're damn skippy. I'm sorry. I refuse. I keep hearing too. I keep hearing oh God, Patrick Swayze's line in Dirty Dancing, nobody puts baby in a corner. That's the way it feels for me right now. That's every time I feel any kind of boxing in, I'm like, oh, no.
Well, a lot of people have got it completely. Their perspective has been such that it's really narrow, and so they miss so much. So they've actually sliced off 99.9% of what is, but and been very vocal about it. About, well, I don't want any masters over me, and these ascended masters that are walking the earth, and I'm not putting up with any of that bullshit. I'm a master. I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess you don't like yourself. I guess you don't like the beings next to you. I guess you don't want open-heartedness and the river of love flowing, and all the false construct to come crumbling down. I guess you don't want all the small people who are doing really narrow-focused, ugly, nasty things to each other to stop.
Well, see, there, quite frankly, in my view, there has been a spin, that twist. It's there for almost everything. I have found that, the masters who have created that, the false construct, if you will, that we've all participated in and been complicit in just, keeping it real right there. That the whole thing of that is, there's been, with each thing I have found for myself, I can all of a sudden see the spin or the twist or whatever for those that are seeking and then coming to a comprehension of some of these concepts for themselves. As for myself, I will say, for myself, as I opened up and started taking these things in, it became easier and easier to see. Sure, it is absolutely true that I don't want to have any ascended master over me at all. Absolutely, I get that. I don't think anybody's see, that's where that twist comes in. Yes, they were talking about ascended masters, but it's you they were actually talking about.
Right.
They didn't tell you that. It wasn't, it was probably somewhere in the eensy beensy fine print.
But look at the beauty of that. So this is where I say, from that is sublimely delicious and beautiful. So people are going, anyway. Some are going, yeah, it's cool.
Deeper, go on.
Huh?
Did you just say deeper, go on?
No, I said some people are looking at it and going, come on, what are you talking about?
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought that was so wild right there. I heard you say, I thought you got an instruction from yourself that said deeper, go on. go deeper. I'm sorry. So apparently I want you to go deeper.
Well, you may well have. I just didn't voice it. I was about to go deeper and go on, but.
Oh, okay.
So, but I forgot where I was. Where was it? I told you I was.
She was on a roll.
And I messed it up.
No, that's okay.
It'll come back.
All right. So somebody who's out there answering that in the first place, come and tell me. What was I saying? Oh, I was saying that can you see the sublimely beautiful deliciousness of that twist, or in the ilk of that, and that is mastery. So one's playing with to attain more mastery for themselves, one's having and still playing in delicious ways with that to attain mastery for themselves in their polarization of service to self, right? So I'm going to play for a moment with the deliciousness of each of our mastery in playing with that, because it's so beautifully orchestrated. It's so subtle until you have expansion, then you can see it, and it's not subtle at all. It's so obvious. It's so demonstrable in, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Gauche isn't the word, but it's like that, where it's crass. It's subtlety much? No, not kind of.
It's smack you up the head kind of subtlety. Yeah.
And so the mastery in that is because it's feeling into it, and we're not missing anything, and each experience that we create and then navigate through is a point of mastery in all of our journeys, and we just keep getting more and more and more and more masterful, or expansive in our masterfulness, or expansive in our mastery as we play with this. But that's a really good example of where that mastery comes, one aspect of that mastery comes shining through.
Wow.
Maybe one of the ways to break this down is, if people feel moved to either on the IV or on the different YouTube channels, or in the comment sections or emails, or any, all of those above, want to suggest and play some things to play with around mastery, or questions, or just throw out a phrase that you heard or that come to you, or something like that. But because there's so many different levels of it, and I think that sometimes people, they shrink from the possibility of mastery at all, of being masterful at something, and of being an ascending master, because that's what everybody is right this moment. So suck it up, buttercup. That's what's going on.
Yes. And so I would like to make sure that we put that out there just like that. I would love for if there are any questions or comments in regards to what you'd like to see us talk about, or in regards to mastery. I love that, BZ. Thank you for that. To make sure to reach out, either, like BZ said, either in the comments of either on BZ's channel, because these videos go out on both our channels, both BZ Rieger's Quantum Playground channel and Conscious Conversation Central. And they're always posted on the IEV, and there's, my email address is in all of them as well. So, feel free to ask questions or comment or anything like that. The one caveat that I haven't said a lot, but I'm going to start, And that is that I feel like the very first thing, this is for me, but I really truly feel like it's for almost everyone, anyone seeking mastery, have to be willing to ask yourself lots of questions and be open to consider all the answers that come up as you're asking yourself. And I don't know, that whole idea of listening to what others might have to say because it might expand your mind or cause you to question differently. I don't know. I've always had that. I've been a supervisor a lot of times in my life. I've trained a lot of folks, and I always used to say, and I didn't understand why. I get it now, why. But I always used to say at the beginning of every training session, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Because on so many levels, because even if someone has a question that they don't ask, it could have triggered an understanding or a comprehension in someone else or a question about something that they had that they didn't even realize they would have had that question not been asked. So that's the genesis for me of conversation, and not being afraid to ask questions.
Right.
And be open to hearing the answer. Doesn't mean that you have to take it in as yours, but maybe there's something of it in the perception of taking it in that can be helpful or lead to something else. It doesn't have to be the be all. In other words, the answer to a question doesn't have to be the be all end all answer. It could just be the beginning,
right,
of the finding out of something.
Well, you just said, I don't know, I counted about 7 or 8, but I lost count after that. Trying to think of the right word, vehicles to different kinds of mastery, and opening up paths of mastery for oneself. So I'm just going to pull a few of them out. So in asking a question, you have the courage, because why do a lot of people not answer questions? Because they're asking questions to themselves, or they're having a conversation with themselves in whether it's this video or anything else, right? It's going on all the time. So what is it that limits you from giving voice to that? Either in various ways, written in other words. Okay, so that's a question right there. So that's a question, there's an answer, and there's a whole conversation right there between you and your soul happening. So just in owning that, that's beautiful deliciousness and mastery, path of mastery right that moment. Okay, that's one. That's very being small and all that kind of stuff. Now you think about, okay, well, that's an interesting question. Well, I've got lots of questions. So now you're playing it, so you're going beyond that. You're not even, because the first stage is really, you're just afraid within yourself to even ask the question or entertain something. Okay, so all right, that's good. You got that all percolating. Now you've got, okay, well, yeah, and what about that? And I said that, and I feel this, and I noticed this, and okay, well, now you're jazzing. I mean, you're rocking and rolling. Okay. So, and maybe there's somebody right next to you, or somebody, that you happen to turn to something and you're having a conversation there, or a friend that you talk about with stuff or whatever it is. So, okay, that's a conversation there. Great. That's a path to mastery. And it's also something where you're opening up that path to share with the other beings that you're doing with. Now, let's say that you're actually asking a question or leaving a comment or saying, well, I've wondered about this, or I was playing with this, or this phrase keeps coming to mind. I have no idea why, but I'm throwing it out there. Okay. Again, that's path to mastery, because now you're actually following your nudges, and there is this whole conversation, and you are being nudged and directed to do different things, and so that flow is coming. And you can take it, all sorts of other steps further. One thing I want that's also a big beacon, a shining, expansive beacon on the various paths to mastery that you are not only opening and then can walk on and play with, is that when you do this, when you ask a question, when you give an expansive comment, right, when you're coming up with a phrase came to mind, or you're playing with something, or sharing some kind of experience, you're giving an amazing gift to the all. Not just, I'm not talking about just to the place where you left the comment and all the people who come by, but it's something because you gave voice to it, and maybe you typed it, electronically, but you're giving voice to it. You had the courage, and you're walking through, and you're playing with, and you're giving voice to it. Now it's out there in the frequency of all, and it's caused expansion. So if you're someone who's thinking, well, are we there yet? And I don't understand this, or I'm having trouble with this, or whatever is, kind of the mantra that seems to continually, one might also ask yourself, well, who are you to keep denying giving these gifts to everybody else that you're being nudged to give? Why are you so closed-hearted about that? Why are you feeling that you've got to be the Grinch guarding all that wisdom that's there to share? I mean, who made you so tiny and grumpy that you can't do that? Because the truth of who you are all the time continually is asking you, is connecting with you, is conversing with you, is loving you, and just wonderful blankets and pillows and soft grass meadows of compassion to ask you to do that. And now is the time to do that. So whether it's this particular conversation or any other in any other of everything, that's what this is all about.
Yep. Agreed. And I have not followed plenty of nudges in the past, and that is over. I've seen too much now. I've experienced too much when you don't follow a nudge, and what can happen when you do.
Yeah, and it's not just the big stuff either.
It's little tiny stuff.
Yeah, really little tiny stuff that feel almost insignificant in the moment. But they aren't at all, because again, right? It's another path, isn't it?
Well, that's where the prize is hidden. It's proving. You're proving to yourself. Right. Okay? There, your soul is not proving to you. It's the other way around, and as soon as you get that, you're better off. But you're proving. Because will you look at that tiny little supposedly insignificant thing that, is this seed, and it's a magic seed, just looking at it, just noticing it. Bam! It's this amazing tree of life, like in the movie Avatar, and hello, holy smokeroonies. And I was going to walk right by that. In fact, I actually walked by a couple 100,000 of them just today, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if the only questions that you find yourself giving voice to and allowing yourself to ask are we there yet? What's taking so long? Where's my unfettered access? And, one of these rat bastards are going to have mass arrests. Okay, well, what have you done lately for yourself and for your mastery and your expansion, and to share your amazing gifts? You're a kick-ass creator being, and you're absolutely got yourself cloaked and tied up in a big tight wuzzle, and are you done with it?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, well, I think this has been an awesome conversation, and I really am looking forward to having more and input, from the general population that does.
And I want to add one note here. So for those who say, well, I have to work, all this came from being at work. I had to work late because I wasn't done with the thing I had to finish, and this came from that. So,
yeah, that's exactly correct. She sure was. She actually called and said, or texted first and said, "I'm going to be late," right. And then, then came up with the whole idea that came up as she was working. So yeah, I can attest.
So that excuse never really flew, but it didn't fly at all.
Well,
fact,
yeah,
watch
that's
out
why.
for what comes in the door with that excuse.
That's true. That's very true. Well, is there anything anything else that either one of you would like to add before? No?
No. It was beautiful, just like it was.
Well, all the usual thing in all the usual places, and would love to hear any comments or questions about this one, and count on the fact that we'll be talking about this again. Because actually, I think I'm beginning to feel like everything I'm talking about, everything I do, it's all mastery anyway. So it comes under that heading, but I don't know. This has been a little bit more specific. So, all right. Well, till next time.
Much love.